You ever have one of those nights where you just know, absolutely know, your whole life's about to change, but you got no clue how bad it's going to get before dawn? Yeah, that was me, David Carter. Standing out on my porch at 3 in the morning, rain dripping off the roof, staring down 3 guys in slick suits climbing out of a black BMW like they owned the whole block. The tallest one looked at me, not even trying to hide the contempt in his eyes, and I swear you could read his mind clear as day. What's a 42-year-old mechanic gonna do to stop us? But if you lay a finger on her, I guarantee you'll regret it for the rest of your miserable life. That's what I said, my voice steady, even though my hands were trembling inside my jacket pocket. 12 hours before all that, I was just another tired man on his way home, craving sleep, not trouble. But when I saw her, barefoot, wedding dress soaked, walking alone on the highway at 2 a.m., something inside me wouldn't let me drive past, even though every instinct screamed, "Don't get involved, man." You know what I mean? She looked like life had spit her out and left her to drown. "Please help me," she whispered, eyes red, voice so small it barely cut through the rain. I recognized that kind of desperation. I'd seen it in my own face back when I lost my job at the garage and learned the hard way that some layoffs are just code for, "Let's hire someone who doesn't look like you." But unlike me, I got back up, opened my own little shop, learned to survive on my own terms. This woman, Isabella, she said her name was, she seemed broken, but somehow still fighting. "I ran away from my own wedding 3 hours ago," she mumbled, shivering in my front seat, mascara streaked down her cheeks, her hands shaking as she clutched the seatbelt like a lifeline. Turns out she'd left behind not just a fancy party, but a whole life of luxury. A fiancé with too much money and too little soul, a man who saw people as possessions. What neither of us knew was that Richard Blackwood, heir to half the city's real estate, wasn't just controlling. He was dangerous, the kind of man who sees no as a challenge, not a boundary. She crashed on my couch, dead asleep before I could even hand her a blanket. I stayed up making coffee, trying to ignore that gnawing feeling that things were about to get complicated. Rich girls don't just show up barefoot on the highway unless they're running from something real ugly. Next morning, no knock on the door, just the suits marching in like they were collecting a debt. The guy in front, bald, scar on his cheek, didn't bother with small talk. "Where's the boss's bride?" That old anger started boiling up again, the kind you get when cops pull you over for no reason, or when customers treat you like a thief the minute they see your face. "I don't know what bride you're talking about," I said, keeping my voice even though Isabella was hiding just a wall away. He grinned and called someone, put the phone on speaker. Richard's voice came through, smooth as oil but sharp underneath. "Return my property, or I make you wish you were never born." And I'll admit, most folks would have caved, but I'd spent too many years having my dignity chipped away by people just like him. Something about his arrogance made me want to dig in deeper, to remind him not everyone could be bought or bullied. After the goons left, promising they'd be back, Isabella tried to slip out, said she didn't want to bring me any more trouble. I told her she was staying, and even I was surprised by how certain I sounded. What nobody realized was, I'd spent my whole life learning to outmaneuver men like Richard, how to be patient, to document every dirty trick, to wait until the moment was right. Guys like Richard never expect resistance from someone they see as beneath them. Then the real game started. Cops showed up with a search warrant, led by Detective Morrison, a guy who looked like he'd rather be anywhere but there. "Anonymous tip," he claimed, but you could tell he didn't believe it himself. They tore through my shop, found nothing. Minutes after they left, my phone rang. "Enjoy the show, David?" Richard, sounding almost amused. "You've got 24 hours. That was just the start." The next day, 3 customers canceled appointments. Probably got a call from someone with more money than morals. Isabella started helping me at the shop. Turned out she was sharp with numbers. Kept things organized, steadied the ship even as the storm kept brewing. One afternoon, she finally told me what I'd suspected. Richard's generosity was just another form of control. He paid for everything, then weaponized it against her when she pushed back. And what scared her most was how he treated anyone he thought he could buy, or couldn't. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "He talked about people like you as problems to be managed, not people." That stung more than I care to admit. By Wednesday, the building's owner showed up. After 5 years of no trouble, suddenly asking me to vacate. Got a better offer, he mumbled, couldn't even meet my gaze. The business card he handed me said Blackwood Properties. Richard was tightening the noose. But he made one mistake. He thought I was just another obstacle, never realizing I'd spent years watching, learning, recording every slight. That night, after Isabella finally got some sleep, I opened up a folder on my desk, photos, phone logs, notes about every weird call or car that passed the shop. I even kept that business card. I was done waiting. Thursday, Richard himself showed up. No more intermediaries, just him and a couple of new muscle. He looked at my shop like it was a doghouse. Isabella, let's go home, he commanded. But she stood beside me, voice steady. This is my home now. Richard laughed, tried to belittle us. But all he did was expose his own weakness, the blind arrogance of someone who never expects a fight. Friday brought the twist I needed, a call from Marcus Washington, IRS agent. He was different, black man in his 50s, had that tired but honest look. We got an anonymous tip about tax fraud, he said, but his tone told me he wasn't buying it. I handed him every receipt, every ledger. After an hour, he confided, "This is the third investigation this month involving small black business owners, all reported by Blackwood's lawyers." He closed the folder, said quietly, "Men like Blackwood, they don't stop here. Be careful." I finally pressed Isabella for the full truth. She'd kept photos, contracts, texts, proof of bribes, money laundering. All of it. "I thought I might need them one day," she said, pulling her phone from her purse. That's when I realized she hadn't just run from a wedding. She'd run from a criminal empire. So I made a call to Tomas Rivera, old friend turned investigative journalist. We met at a coffee shop, and I handed him everything. His eyes lit up, connecting dots I didn't even see. "This is dynamite, David. You sure you're ready for what's coming?" I just nodded. We both knew the real fight was about to begin. Monday, a subpoena showed up. Richard suing me for alienation of affection, claiming I'd ruined his business by helping Isabella. But by suing me, he opened up discovery. Now I had the legal right to demand all his company's documents. When I called Agent Washington, he said, "Bring me everything you've got." That's when things hit a fever pitch. Richard stopped pretending, showed up with two real heavies. 48 hours. "If Isabella's not in my office, bad things happen," he hissed, dropping all pretense. But for the first time, I was ready. "By the way, how'd your meeting with federal prosecutors go?" I asked. The look on his face, pure panic. I flashed him one of Isabella's photos. Richard handing a fat envelope to Councilman Morrison. At that moment, Rivera called Richard's phone. "Care to comment for our story on municipal corruption?" Then the FBI rang, asking him to come in for questioning. The whole world unraveled for Richard in less than an hour. Contracts canceled, accounts frozen, partners bailing, feds waiting outside. Isabella stepped into the doorway and said, "You controlled what I let you see. I kept the rest." Richard, face gone white, could only mutter, "You have no idea what you've done." But we did. I even had our conversation recorded. One more nail in the coffin. In 30 minutes, his empire collapsed. When the agents finally cuffed him, I felt something like relief and triumph. But mostly just gratitude that it was over. Or so I thought. 6 months later, the sun set behind my new shop on the other side of town. Tomas's story had blown the lid off corruption in the city. Richard was serving 12 years, his empire dismantled, his power gone. Isabella stood beside me as co-owner, smiling at the line of customers. We'd married quietly, with Rivera and Agent Washington as our witnesses. Funny how picking up a stranger in the rain led to this. A new life, real respect, and a family. Detective Morrison, who'd once tried to bring me down, showed up at our opening and apologized in front of the whole crowd. "You taught us dignity can't be measured by a bank account," he said. Washington had become a friend, joking. "Richard tried to bribe me in jail. You believe that? Some men just never learn." As I locked up the shop that night, Isabella asked, "Do you regret stopping that night?" Not for a second. Sometimes the biggest detour is what leads you exactly where you're meant to be. And if you made it this far, maybe you've got a story like that, too. Tell me, what would you have done? Do you think justice ever really wins? Or is it all just about who has the nerve to fight back? Drop your thoughts below. I'll be reading every one.